Hello guys, Colonel Ninny here.
This is part 2 of the How to Fly series for IL-2's Flying Circus. In the first video we looked at engine start, taxiing and takeoff. So in this video we're going to look at airspeed control, climbing, descending and turns. On your main game screen, let's go to the quick missions, then the World War I maps. Click on the airfield to choose your aircraft, and let's stick with the same one for consistency, the German Pfalz D3. One fundamental misunderstanding of novice pilots is how airspeed is controlled in the aircraft. On the ground, as we add the power, the aircraft accelerates just like a car. But once it gets to flying speed, in other words when the airflow over the wings creates enough lift, things change. Once airborne, your primary airspeed control is the elevator. This is controlled by the fore and aft movement of your stick. If you push forward on the stick, the nose will go down and you will increase your speed. Conversely, to slow down, you pull back on the stick to raise the nose. Keeping the nose steady in one place will keep the airspeed steady and under control. And this is true when the power is kept constant. I'll explain the relationship between power and altitude a little later. So here we're flying the aircraft level, which gives us a constant speed. As we start to raise the nose in increments, we'll start to bleed that speed off to the point where it will no longer fly. In simple layman's terms, there's not enough airflow over the wings to create lift and maintain lift, so the aircraft stops flying. This is called a stall. And what's interesting here is we have not changed the power. We still have full power and the aircraft still stops flying. The only way we can judge our speed is by understanding the relationship between the nose of the aircraft and the horizon. Sitting on the ground, this is our pilot's view, but this actually tells us quite a lot more than you might think. With the green line on the horizon, the nose of the aircraft is pointing up. This would be called a nose-up attitude in relation to the horizon. On a modern aircraft, we'd have this instrument telling us the same thing. On takeoff, as we accelerate and the tail comes up, that attitude changes. A critical time for any aircraft is just after takeoff because you're going at the slowest speed. However, you cannot lower the nose to increase the speed because you're too close to the ground. As we climb out, we try to hold the nose at the same angle just above the horizon. This will keep our speed constant in the climb. By adjusting our nose up just a little bit more like this, we'll reduce speed further. So practice these minor changes to hold it in the same place each time. And eventually, as in the previous example, we'll get to the point where we cannot raise the nose anymore without it stalling. So the plan is, don't raise the nose above this point or you're likely to stall. And for a novice pilot, a stall would likely lead to a spin from which you will not be able to recover. This is what the attitude looks like in level flight with this aeroplane. Keeping the gun sights on about the horizon will keep your speed constant. Practice lowering the nose and increasing the speed slightly, and holding it there. And with enough altitude, you can keep lowering the nose and increasing your airspeed until the point where you're going so fast your wings will fall off. And at that point, you go a little bit faster. Although we have no instrument to tell us our speed, we know that we're probably doing about 110 miles an hour here. For every inch or two raising and lowering the nose, you change the speed about 5 or 10 miles an hour. So if we're going from there to there, we've probably gone from 110 down to about 90. And if we raise it up some more, there's 80. These are just guesstimates, but it gives you some idea. And then as the speed bleeds off, we get up to that dangerous point where you can see where we could start to stall, and then we're out of control. For all this, we've had a constant power setting, and yet the airspeed has been up and down all over the place. So what does the power actually do? Think of power as essentially an elevator or a lift in a high-rise building. Adding power adds lift, which means you go up. Decreasing power reduces lift, which means you go down. So the performance of an aircraft depends entirely upon the amount of power available and the speed at which the aircraft can fly. It's a combination of attitude and power which gives you that performance. Here we're pulling the power off and we're lowering the nose to keep the speed up. We can still fly the aircraft perfectly well without the aircraft's engine. But without that power, we're definitely going down to the ground. Which is exactly what we want when we're trying to land the airplane. Okay, time to talk about turns. As we enter a turn, there's a natural tendency for the nose to drop because of a loss of lift and increase of drag. And as the nose drops, it obviously increases the airspeed. We need to be able to maintain our altitude without climbing or descending in a turn. And knowing that the nose is going to drop means that we have to hold it up slightly to maintain that attitude in the turn. As we roll into the turn, we create an angle of bank in relation to the horizon. And once we've established that angle of bank, we should be able to see the horizon passing through the same point on the nose of the aircraft. And what this means is that you're maintaining level flight and maintaining a constant airspeed all the way through the turn. Both climbing and descending turns are done in the same controlled manner. So with this theory, you can see that a slightly steeper angle of bank means you have to hold the nose up slightly higher to maintain your altitude. The steeper your angle of bank, the faster your rate of turn. And the steeper the angle of bank, the more lift you're going to lose and the more you're going to have to compensate by holding the nose up. And the more speed you lose. With these vintage aircraft with engines of about 180 horsepower, you're really limited in your options. If we were doing the same exercise in a modern aircraft, we would add power to compensate for the loss of lift. And just 20 years later, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 was sporting an engine running 1085 horsepower. If you're trying to climb and turn at the same time, you make it difficult for yourself. Anytime you're in a turn, you're losing lift and you're not going to go up if you lose lift. If you must turn at the same time, then keep your angles of bank shallow. And find that sweet spot where the horizon passes through the nose. The tendency when you're doing descending turns is to build up too much speed too quickly, which can also be disastrous. Again, find that sweet spot to give you the speed that you want as the horizon passes through the top of the airframe. Practice descending with power and descending without power. Well, there's a lot to think about here and a lot for you to practice. But make no mistake, your ability to control your airspeed, climbing, descending, and turning is paramount to your survival. It also will stand you in good stead when you want to move up to World War II aircraft on the other IL-2 series. The third video in the How to Fly series for Flying Circus is going to be about aerodrome protocols, the approach and the landing. And with these World War I aircraft, any landing that you could walk away from is a good one. If you've enjoyed this video and get some value out of it, please leave a comment and subscribe and like and all those usual things. But if you want to see more of these videos, specifically with the IL-2 Battle of Stalingrad, I've got about 150 training videos for you to look at. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.